we should be sowing the seeds very, very early for people that, as you say, the world of work, the career journey you go on, it's not a straight line. There's no jobs for life anymore, So
No.
I would love to think that at every point of transition in somebody's career, that they ask themselves the question, is this where I get a job, or is this where I start a business, or I explore, generating income in other ways? And, there's lots of different ways to do that.
You are very welcome to the Human Side of Business podcast. We are delighted to have you here today. This is where we talk about the reality of managing people in a modern workplace, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Wherever you are, please be sure to like, follow, or subscribe. We'd be ever so grateful. So welcome to the Human Side of Business podcast. Today, I am delighted to be joined by a long-term friend of mine, Lorraine Bowen. She is the CEO of the Entrepreneurs Academy and a former creative sector entrepreneur with over 30 years experience. She is deeply involved across the business and education ecosystem with a strong focus on equitable entrepreneurship that creates real opportunity and national economic impact. She is an elected member of the Dublin Chamber Policy Council and also serves on its Labour Market Task Force. The Entrepreneurs Academy is a national leader in entrepreneurship, enterprise, and human skills education, and works with SMEs, corporate partners, and government. The Academy has supported more than 120,000 learners nationwide through practical training that drives measurable business and employment outcomes. Lorraine, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Louisa. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. Thank you.
Well, so I'm delighted too, because I know we've had so many conversations about entrepreneurship, about education, about training, about getting people out of their sort of comfort zone and trying something new. And one of the things that we've talked about more recently is life post-redundancy. So I myself took voluntary redundancy many years ago, and I've started my own business as a result of that, or I suppose as a consequence of that, and I've never looked back. It's been absolutely the right thing for me, and I appreciate it's not right for everybody, but it's phenomenal. And I know through the work in the Entrepreneurs Academy, there's a lot of support that's there for people like me who perhaps are choosing to become an entrepreneur, and you do need support because it's an entirely different world. So we might talk about that cohort first, but also support for people maybe in collective redundancy situations. So we'll come to that project second. But maybe if we just focus in on individuals who are changing path, whether it's voluntary redundancy or maybe you got a tap on the shoulder, but you want to look at the next phase of your career and, use your skills, use your knowledge, but do it in a different way. So where does the entrepreneurship come in, and what sort of supports are there for individuals?
Louisa, there is nowhere in the world, I don't think, better to start a business, because we've a really rich ecosystem of supports available right across the country. I mean, if you live in any town or country any town or city in the country, or rurally, you're going to get the support of, for example, the local enterprise offices, who are phenomenal, and we've been partnering with them and deliver training on their behalf for many, many years, 27 years, I think, since we've started working in that space. Huge amount, and you can go there to kind of explore what it is you want to start. If you can go there if you have an idea, if you don't have an idea but just need to start a business or want to start a business. The whole process of ideation and how, working that all out and validating what you might do. So there's nobody who can't go and explore the opportunity. And that's what I really find amazing. The other thing is there's a lot of work that goes on in schools as well, through student enterprise programs and different initiatives. So you're never too young to start thinking about entrepreneurship, because I really believe that, we should be sowing the seeds very, very early for people that, as you say, the world of work, the career journey you go on, it's not a straight line. There's no jobs for life anymore. So I would love to think that at every point of transition in somebody's career, that they ask themselves the question, is this where I get a job, or is this where I start a business, or I explore generating income in other ways? And, there's lots of different ways to do that. So I just love the idea of making people aware that it's possible, possibility, getting them really thinking it's possible. and that it should be equitable and that anybody should have that opportunity to explore it. Like you said, it's not for everybody, but everybody can explore it. And that exploratory process. So the skills you learn from studying entrepreneurship or, all those skills are transferable. If you decide not to start a business, they're transferable back into the world of work. So intrapreneurs are really valuable to organizations. So you've still got the same you've built creativity, innovation, stronger communication skills. You've got a holistic look at what a business is made up of. So your business acumen is up leveled, so you understand, so that's what marketing do, and that's what sales do, and that's what finance do and operate. So you've got a better holistic view of what and respect for business of all sizes. And I just think that you get all of that from going in and playing with entrepreneurship and playing with the whole idea of starting a business. So I really believe that it should be there for everybody. So the agencies or the supports that are available that are either fully funded or heavily supported through the local enterprise offices, also through education and training boards as well.
Yes.
Nationally, but also through local development company nationally as well. And those would be targeting people coming from social disadvantage, but also social enterprises. They have the remit to support social enterprises, which are doing amazing work in terms of, I suppose, supporting sustainable startups and looking at planet and looking at the community or social good. So there's no type of enterprise that it can't be supported. So I think everybody should be playing with it, entrepreneurship, because if you crack open the egg of entrepreneurship, what you find inside is creativity, innovation, problem solving, all of those amazing transversal skills that we need people to be developing, because the hard skills and the job skills that people need, they can acquire, they can learn. But all of this other stuff, that if you bring that with you to any role, you're going to be valuable.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And there's so much in what you've said. I love the term, is it internship?
Entrepreneur. Yeah.
Intrapreneur. Because I've come across, I don't know the term, but I have come across individuals many, many times over my career who, they might get experience, and I'm going to use HR because that's what I do, but they might have worked in HR, gone off, done some HR consultancy externally, had their own business, and then at a certain point gone, do you know what, I don't want the hassle of having my own business, because it is amazing, but it's a lot of work as well, and then maybe gone back into business, but then they're going in with a completely different lens in terms of what it takes to run a business, because you can speak the language of the CEO because you've had to do that. One thing actually that strikes me in listening to you, well, two things that maybe are sort of linked. One is, it's not an all or nothing. You don't have to give up the day job to start a business. Mm-hmm. It can be a side hustle, as people are calling it nowadays. Yeah. That blended career, and that can be a safer way to explore it. But the second piece tied to that worries me a little bit is on social media nowadays, you see an awful lot of influencers coming out saying, quit your job and you can make 10,000 euros in a week or in a month or in a day or, whatever it is. And it just isn't that simple. So maybe talk to the actual realities of those early stages of sort of, testing the water around, particularly around the financial aspect and the stability aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I don't mind naming the organisation because, no, absolutely. We're really proud of this project. It's called New Beginnings, and it was a partnership approach to the solution that was created. And the reason it's public is because we did go to the LNDI Awards, and we were, the Excellence in Learning Awards, and we were finalists in that with this project. So it was a partnership. The organisation who had the employees was Board Namona, a B&M now, and the other partners were the Laois and Offaly Education and Training Board, ourselves at the Entrepreneurs Academy, and Hartley People Training. So we were brought in because these guys, it was 24, 2 women, 22 men who had been employed. Most of them had been employed, most of them, say, from school or for a very long time. Some of them had generationally been employed in rural Laois and Offaly. And they'd been working there, so they had amazing skills for the job they did, but like you say, they weren't transferable, and there wasn't jobs coming to town that could take up, that were going to be able to offer them opportunities. They were, as I said, mainly men in the 30s, 40s, 50s. There was one man, I think, in the 60s. And, they were looking at the daunting prospect of, and they were family men because of the age that they were, and looking at the prospect of not being employed again, to be blunt, in a rural economy that really needed. So instead of looking at what could have been like an unemployment black spot as a result of this, 24 families, what we did was we were brought in and we were challenged with, how do you create a program that is bespoke to the needs of these particular employees? Because this model can work for any level of employee, any sector. It'll work for anything, but it does need to be tailored. And that's what we do very well. What we say is we partner for impact. So we go in, we really understand the problem or the challenge that's facing the particular organization and the people. And then we just say, okay, well, what do we create? So the solution that was created was that we would go down, we had to do face-to-face training, most of it, because the guys, through the nature of the work that they completed, didn't have digital literacy. They would have been working in kind of manual jobs. So they didn't have a lot of financial literacy as well, and they wouldn't have been office based. So we really did have to bring them up to speed with an awful lot of that stuff. They also, we had to give a lot of communication skills and things. So we went in, we've a standard, we specialize in doing start your own business programs. That's what we specialize in. And then management development programs once people get started. So, but we really had to go in and we had to do it on the spot. We had to do a lot of in-person training with them. I'll give you an example. We have one trainer, Margaret Hochter, who, so I suppose just to explain, our panel, we've got 35 experts who train across all the different areas that you need, whether it's creativity and innovation, right through to AI and all of the other bits, leadership. So everybody who trains for us is an experienced, that has run a business or is running a business. They're a skilled educator, knows how to transfer the learning, and they're also an up-to-date topic expert. So to give you an example, Margaret Hochter runs Kilmullen Farm. You know Margaret.
I know Margaret well.
You do? Yeah. Margaret is a fantastic denim. So she does a lot of the market research and marketing. And so anyway, so she went down to Offaly and did her market research session while cooking the lamb from her farm. You say, the way to
I can imagine dressed in pink, I'm sure.
Dressed in pink wellies, of course. But she does it her own way. So they say the way to somebody's heart is through their belly. She literally, in the kitchen down in Bora, down in Offaly, she cooked the lamb stew and did it that way. So, we didn't just, have a program and say, this is what you're getting. We went down and really understood what are the guys going to need. Another one of our trainers, Michael Keogh, he did a lot of the digital skills, and Noel Davidson, our head of training, a lot of the digital skills and because they needed all of that to be able to access what we needed to share with them. Yeah. So, that was done very much on a kind of, some of the guys had never even had a smartphone, that you're talking about now. So, to go from that to, so that's some of the things, and then we did, a lot of the training was kind of standard, but adapted. But to go to the stage through that program where over a course of a few months, the guys all pitched for investment at the end. So 96% of them received 8,000 in investment because they had to do a pitch that was, they had a panel and, they all got that 96% of them got it. 96% of them got a QQI qualification in business planning. And then we had, let me see, I have a few numbers here just so that I get it right because I want to do justice to the guys. Where did I have that? They, I think it was 84% of them started a business at the end of the program. One other guy, he took over a family business, and then 8% of them were in the process of starting the business at the end. And I was only chatting to my colleague Noel Davidson this morning because he stays in touch with the guys because he led out on that program, and they he was just telling me about ads for jobs that they're hiring people at the moment. There's a number of them. So a lot of them went into kind of renewable, working in the renewable energy space. So we've got Thomas Fox, who actually he was very proud and we were very proud of him, but he went for a local entity. So as well as the investment that was gotten from Board Nimona, who made that investment in each company, they also went to the local enterprise office to get support, and Thomas managed to secure the largest grant that had ever been awarded through the Offaly local enterprise office on the basis of the business plan, the pitch and things that he did. So they got from a level where they didn't have any business acumen or, those traditional business schools, digital literacy and things, to a stage where they're able to really compete out there. They've started a lot of businesses now. And I remember we were at the graduation. They were all there with their kids in their finery. And I remember one of the guys saying to me, my God, I shouldn't really be pulling them out of school today for this. And I said, best day's education they'll ever get, that you can transform your life through education. And that if you lean into learning, that anything is possible. And, it's
important. It is such a striking story because rather than having, as you said, it's not 24 individuals, it's 24 families.
24 families.
And you can't, if you're in your 20s and something like that happens and you live in a rural area, you might go, I'll go live in Dublin, I'll go live in Galway, I'll go live in New York or Sydney or whatever. But once you've got kids and life and mortgage and schools and everything that goes with that, it's not impossible, but it's a much more challenging thing to do. And you may not want to do that.
Yeah.
They may have been born and bred in that area and they love living there and they don't want to leave. But yet they have created employment for other families. So
Absolutely.
Not only have they protected those 24 families, it's spread out into the community and it's impacting on however many families now in terms of the employment and the money that's being reinvested back into the community, it's such a good news story. And I think it's incredible. I know Bord na Mór being, I want to get this right now, they're sort of a semi-state body, aren't they? Oh, they probably have a slightly different view from a moral, ethical perspective in terms of the support they want to give their staff. But most employers that I work with, even in the private sector, where there is where there is financial reality whereby they can give the support, they want to support people if there's a collective redundancy situation. They don't want to see people suffer as a result of it. And I think it's phenomenal to think about it differently. It's not about how do I go from being a HR person in company A to a HR person in company B. It's how do I take my skills and transform them into something entirely new.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think for me, there's no loser in this. So if you look at the whole, if you look at all the players in this, obviously the guys now have come out and their families are being sustained by this. They're creating employment. One of the challenges that when I was speaking originally to Pádraig Boland from the Laois and Offaly Education and Training Board, who was brought in to talk to about the challenges, and I said, well, look, how do we know we've been successful with this? And he said, if the schools aren't emptying out. And oh my God, it's not about a training program. It's about, will there be kids in the school? Will people be staying? That, it's about, because Pádraig has a very strong background and passion for, community development. When you run a project like this, even if it's in an urban area, no matter where it is, if there's redundancy situations, that is disrupting the community. It's disrupting people's personally, their families. It's disrupting community. It's disrupting the economy. So it makes absolute sense. It's the right thing to do, but it also makes absolute sense to consider this as a possibility.
Yes.
And I think the fact that, you could have highly skilled and highly educated professionals within large organizations who are facing challenges. I mean, with AI and with all the, everything that's going on in the world now, we know that there's a lot of change and flux within employment. It's just, I think, to be able to let people know that things like this can be created that are bespoke to that situation. But I mean, I think if you look at this baseline of skills, and I suppose the absolute need to do the right thing here. And, like you said, Bord na Mór, semi-state, they felt they really needed to do the right thing by their people. They'd been generationally or personally there for so long. But it also makes a huge sense to them because they have their hand on their heart. The rest of their employees know they did the right thing by our friends and colleagues. They've done the right thing by our community. And that is what brand is. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Brand is doing the right thing even when it's hard, and you reap the rewards of that because you're standing. That's integrity. So I think organizations, can, as a consequence of doing the right thing, it bolsters your brand at a time when it could be compromised by redundancy situations. So it's an opportunity to do a smart thing and the right thing.
Yes. And I think when it comes to particularly to collective redundancies, oftentimes the hardest thing is survivor's guilt. So, you can support people leaving, you can give them a good package, you can give them, oftentimes lots of organizations will already do like a training grant, which is slightly different to this, where it's more focused training. And so a lot of those supports are there, and organizations can get their head around that. But then it's dealing with the survivor's guilt. So the people that are left behind in the organization worried, well, what happens if I'm next? Why am I safe and my friend who I had lunch with every day for the last 20 years, they're gone? How am I supposed to do all this work? And all kinds of different things come up, lots of fears, lots of anxieties. But actually, if you see the people who are exiting going on to create new opportunities, having a new fresh start, it creates a different energy. It's like excitement, maybe a little bit of jealousy. Why didn't I get the opportunity to go do that? But there's a lot of excitement around it, and I think it's a very different sell, both internally within the organization with the collective redundancy situation, and externally within the community, the immediate community, the industry, the sector, and nationally. It's a massive impact. The older I'm getting and the wiser I'm getting, if I am getting wiser, but I truly believe that Indigenous Irish business, be they small micro businesses or larger businesses that we hear about that go out there, they're so fundamentally important to the entire economy, to individuals who are in the workplace, and indeed to supporting individuals who for whatever reason cannot work. So it's so important. I love it really, talking with yourself about this previously, and I know we've chatted about this before, it really struck me that when I left and I took redundancy, I did get support from the local enterprise office, and it was great and they were brilliant. But going to somewhere like the Entrepreneurs Academy, doing a course that's specifically focused in on becoming an entrepreneur, I think that there's huge value in that, because whilst I've always worked in HR, that's what I do, it is vastly different when you're all of the other parts of a business, as well as using your professional experience or skill set. So for the individuals out there who maybe are a little bit more like me, we've talked about the local enterprise office and the different supports that are there, but what would you suggest they do even before they reach out to somebody externally, just inside themselves, in terms of thinking about how they transition that skill set or look at the opportunities that might be available?
So I think what you've got to do is you've got to believe it's possible. Okay. So you can go out there and you can do a crash course, and you could even do it online, on YouTube or whatever. What are the, how do I do sales? How do I do marketing? How do I, I might have worked in finance, but I don't have those other things, or I might have worked in marketing, but I don't have, and you could patch on those things. But you need to become, and some people don't like the word entrepreneur. Let's bring it right back to work. Like what we say is, would you like to work for yourself? That's the first job you create, is your own. Or if you're in a partnership or, a small team, that's really important. And it's so valuable, as you say, to the economy, that you create your own job. And then after that, the way you build a business around it, and you can scale the business. And people have different levels of ambition around what they want to do there. Some people want to keep it small, and they want to be able to outsource and collaborate and not hire big teams. So a measure of success doesn't necessarily have to be how many people you have. It's how profitable your business is, and how happy you are, and how well you've built your business, so that you're not a slave to it, but that you're actually enjoy doing the thing it is you set it up to do, And and increasingly we're seeing a lot of people starting social enterprises where they can earn a good income from it, but also be solving a challenge that needs to be solved. Absolutely. And that matters to them. If people there is an awful lot of support out there, different agencies, and we do a huge amount of work, as I said, with the local enterprise office and the ETBs and the local development companies. Our model has always been, for the 27 years that we've been in business, is government funded corporate partnerships. So we've done, so through those agencies, we get on through public procurement, we get on contracts with them, and then we can get in and solve problems. And that's what we love to do the corporate partnership piece, which is if somebody needs us to come in as a, whether it's like, I mean, we've innovative tools, like we have, it's a gamified leadership development tool, which is really fun, and like it builds communication skills and different things. So we've got lots of different ways that we can support corporate partners. Or if they've got say they need internal training. So we've done like act like an owner or intrapreneurship training for teams, so that you don't have to be, making staff redundant to see value in giving them the skills that an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur would have. So design thinking, creativity, problem solving, a lot of the challenges that people are facing, and especially with remote working and things, how do you keep people connected? How do you keep people communicating and solving problems collaboratively and things? So there's a lot of ways that we can, that we do engage with that. So whether it's with an individual who's looking out from their organization and looking to kind of see what I might do next, or whether it's organizations that are looking to bring us in to do things within the organization, or if they've got, as you say, a collective redundancy and they're looking to support people on their journey, in a positive way. So, yeah.
No, look, I think that it's such an important area. And as I said, I have lived through the experience. And when you think about entrepreneurship and why would you do it? And it took me, I'd say I was running my own business for 5 or 6 years at least before I would have called myself an entrepreneur, because I always thought entrepreneurs were those people over there who had better businesses, maybe made products, did something, had massive teams, did something completely different. It took me a really long time. And still, I kind of go, oh, I'm not sure that I am. I just, do what I do. But for me, one of the key drivers behind it was flexibility. I knew that working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, I live in Wicklow, going to Dublin, it just wasn't the life that I wanted from a family perspective. Raising my boys, it didn't fit anymore. It didn't fit what worked for me. And the one thing that I've seen with it is that, when they were small, I very much worked if they were in preschool or in the evenings, weekends, when I had cover. I had a little bit of sort of childcare, but very, very minimal. As they've got older, I've got busier. Now I have podcasts and various other things because I can give it more time. And actually, every now and then I'll check in and I'm like, do you want me to pull back from work? Are you okay? Do you need more of my attention? They're like, no, go work more because you're giving us too much attention. So I'm like, okay, but I do check in. And that degree of freedom that it has allowed me isn't something that you can get from an employer. You can get, amounts of that, and some employers are very family friendly, but I had control at various junctions to sort of turn up the heat, turn down the heat, and say, okay, I want to work more, I want to work less, I want to not do too much in the summer. Christmas is precious to me. I take 2 weeks off, and you can call me if the house is burning down, but otherwise, I'm not going to answer. So there's various elements to it, and I think in your line of work you've probably seen people come into entrepreneurship for a whole host of different reasons. So what would you see as being the biggest advantages to people, and I suppose some of the challenges and disadvantages, because it's not all rosy in the garden either?
Yeah, look, you've described it very well there, because like you say, lived experience is the best the best way to come at this. I suppose I have to, this is the first job I've ever had. I've been with the Entrepreneurs Academy for 13 years. I've never done a job interview. I met Joanne Hession, who's the founder of this organization, and 2 others. She's a serial entrepreneur and amazing. But I've worked for myself up until then. Yeah. So I come at this, I suppose, with that lens. I did that before I had a job. Some people have the job first and then go do. So we've done the opposite. Opposite. But I suppose the challenges that people face. And when you were talking there about needing to upskill and things, I had run my my textile business for 13 years, and then I went and did a master's in business after I ran the business, and I did it to see, did I do that right or not? And then I thought, oh yeah, absolutely, yes, management, leadership, HR. I can tick all these things up. Yeah. I learned them in doing, so you can learn a lot in doing. But there's also an awful lot of, there's a lot of scaffolding around all of this. And I think it's good to plug yourself into programs. There's a lot of, I would say, there's a lot of learning that you can do out there. And if you eat the buffet like anything else, you're going to get fat on all the wrong stuff, So you're going to be doing all the things you like to do, but not the stuff you should be doing. So one of the hardest, believe it or not, and I know your audience are HR and L&D professions, but one of the hardest things, training sessions to fill for small business owners and managers is HR. People don't want to think about it, So you can put those, the local enterprise office will put these on, and they will be the ones that are slowest. They might, they might run anything legal. So on a start your own business program with the local enterprise office, it typically has 8 to 10 sessions. And of that, 2 to 3 will be the finance and legal sessions. When you ask people why they're doing the start your own business course, they'll say, because I don't want to get in trouble with the tax man and I want to make sure everything's right. But then they still don't want to go to the sessions that are, so it's like eat your greens, and they're not going to. But when they do, they get the highest scores. Because we measure everything, they get the highest scores because they give the greatest sense of relief. So the challenges that people have is that I don't want to get in trouble. I want to make sure the financial side is secure and the legal side is secure. So that's what worries people. But there's so many ways to outsource that. There's loads of different organizations. You get a good accountant, and I suppose plug for a great organization called Finero. They would be, and they work specifically with people in that gig economy or the small enterprises, and that they can outsource all of that. And that they've won all sorts of innovation awards for the technology they use to make it so easy. That's what it is.
Exactly.
So you probably experienced that yourself, that you come out and you don't want to do the admin, you don't want to do the finances, you don't want to do all of those kind of things, and you want to get rid of them as soon as possible. But if you go and park that over there and you're not engaging with it or understanding it, you need to know your numbers, you need to understand it.
Yeah.
And so organizations like Finero and others, they keep you own the knowledge, they do the work, on your behalf. So that sort of stuff, or else partnering in with another organization, or, getting, there's loads of different ways to collaborate. And that's why getting involved in business networks, yourself and myself, Louisa, met through Network Ireland.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. When you were national president.
Yeah.
And, networking, and being around other people, because, you've got, you can share skills, you get supports, it's peer support but all, you can find the other people you need to make your business, either you can bring them into the business, or you can, collaborate with them, or you can, there's all sorts of models that make it work,
Yeah, no, look, I completely concur. And I think any business owner will tell you, you do have to know a little bit about everything. You just do.
Yeah.
There's no getting away from it.
Yeah.
And you have to do, Blaise Brosnan would have always say, you have to do the uncomfortable thing. You have to. But you're not going to be good at everything. And you don't need to try and be good at everything.
Yep.
And the sooner you figure out, I'm good at this and I'm not good at that, and I'm going to do this and I'm not going to do that, the sooner that you will move from stagnation towards some degree of fluidity. So that it really is a crucial step in any business. And actually,
the head in the stand is never going to work. It doesn't work in any aspect of life, So, ignoring your numbers and things. I mean, my background is in the creative sector, and, we do a lot of work with that sector. And, when you're in school, you're asked, do you want to do accountancy or art? And if you do one, sometimes the roads never meet again.
Yes.
So you've got to bring those back together, and you've got to make it make sense and tailor it so that it really does make sense. Because what we don't want is people with high skills in the whole creative sector who can't earn a living, so to be able to do that. So it's just making sure that you look and you tailor the needs, needs. And we had, I remember an accountant one time, his chartered accountant was on a program that we were running. And he said, look, I don't need to go to the finance sessions because I'm an accountant. And I remember Joanne Hession, our founder, she said to him, but Rory, would this not be your market research session? Because if you've got 30 other people in the room and all of those are asking, all your FAQs are in there. So it's about thinking what you can learn from everything,
I love being in a networking session where people are talking about HR, and I just sit back and I try not to actually engage and just listen and listen to the advice they give each other. And sometimes you're like, that's really bad advice. I'll go talk to that person afterwards and tell them not to do that. And sometimes you're like, that works.
But it is, it's about, I suppose, having an open mind and
Absolutely.
and it is that buffet thing, like programs, if you go out to engage in a program, they'll have been designed by professionals, like
Yes.
we know what we're doing. We've gone really deep on what we do. We don't do a wide range of things. We do really deep work in one particular area. And, and it's very rich and it's very relevant, but we know how to design a program. We know how to make it. We know how to tailor it. And that's why we do a lot of this customization, because we believe deeply in equity of entrepreneurship, as I said. So we want to make it accessible to everybody. Whatever the particular, whether it's a social enterprise, a group of social enterprises in Wexford, or whether it's, people transitioning out of corporate roles, or whether it's the guys on board Nimona, whoever it is, or school children, we know how to go deep on those, but we create programs and, so that it's like anything, if you just open the fridge or you go to the buffet table and you have the wrong stuff, you're just not going to survive, or you're not going to be getting what you need out of it,
No, look, I think that's very, very valid advice. We have a tradition on the podcast that we have borrowed from a different podcast, where the previous guest leaves the question for the next guest.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you your question, your final question of the day.
Okay.
So this person said that they were all about paying it forward. Can you think, as someone in business, what paying it forward means to you and how you can pay it forward in a meaningful way?
I said it earlier on, do the right thing. It's always about looking to see what's the right thing to do, not the easier thing to do. And quite often, like if you do the right thing, you are paying it forward. You're really looking holistically at everybody that's involved and making sure everybody comes out of things as a winner. And you're not just filling your own pockets or doing, satisfying a certain amount of people. Look at that New Beginnings thing, and everybody came, all of the stakeholders, everybody involved came out well. But paying it forward, I suppose, just do the right thing, and by everybody that you interact with. And I suppose, like I say, we met through network and we both do a lot of it. And I just like to get out there and curiosity is one of my main drivers. I love to be curious about people, about learning, about everything. And I think if you stay that way, you're going to find opportunities through your curiosity to, support other people or do things that make sense.
Yes.
And are helpful. And Irish people love helping people.
Yeah. I agree.
I always think if you're walking down the street and if you ask somebody, where's the library, they'll tell you whether they know or not. They'll sort of point you in a vague direction, left, right, and then ask somebody else, because they don't want to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure, but if you check with that person, they're going to be able to tell you the right way.
They'll always send you, they'll always send you somewhere, and whether it's the right place or not. But, people. So I think it is that innate thing that we have that we do want to. But I think that curiosity drives me. So I want to find out about people, about challenges, about problems, things, and then I am a problem solver. That's what I do. I'm a creative. So I will always love to be able to do that. So paying it forward for me is sometimes it's part of, we might get an outcome of a project out of it, but sometimes it might be just that you've added value to something else that's happening that is of value, and it comes back. It comes back, So we get involved in lots of different things just that matter, Oh,
I love that. It's very ethical. Just sort of doing it for the right reason. And if it's the wrong thing, you can fix it. But if you're doing it for the right reason, there's a good chance it will work.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Lorraine, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been brilliant talking to you, and I'll chat to you again very soon. Thanks, Louisa.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.